It's Shannon.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live.
It's Shannon.
Because you don't know how it's going to turn out.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
My kids empowered me to get out.
What's going on with this remote learning and in the midst of COVID?
Working for different elected officials, learning and understanding how to put the community first.
Hi, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon. So how are you? How's everybody today? Thank you for joining us. Hello to my co-hosts, Ms. Allison Maurice and Mr. Sandler Francis. How are you?
Doing great. Wonderful day, ladies. Hope we all had a great day today.
It was warm. Yes, it was wonderful.
Well, we want to get back to our hot topics because they are hot tonight. And so I hope you were ready for our first hot topic, which is about Ja Morant, the basketball player who is acting crazy and about to lose his contract, about to lose all his ad money and everything. I say, which do you want to be, rich or poor? Is it worth you losing your contract or your ads of millions of dollars to hold up a gun on a video acting crazy?
Well, money does reveal who you really are, doesn't it? At the end of the day, it does because what you're looking at is someone who hit the DNA lottery, someone who pretty much can cash in a lottery ticket and for the sake that they can jump over 4 feet in the air and do something that they love, and here they are putting at jeopardy. Now, I'm not one to diagnose someone as being mentally in poor health, but I will say he's at least street crazy. And what I mean when I say street crazy, it's just that crazy when you ain't got no sense. And I think that's what we're looking at, a young man who doesn't have any sense or guidance. And that's a big problem.
You actually think he don't have, think that he really doesn't have good sense? I mean, well, I don't know. I guess if I was his mother, I would probably take him in the back with my belt and give him a good whipping and let him know that I put out all of this stuff to make sure your butt get through school. I'm sure they send him to college, all that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure some parents must have taught him some kind of way of acting. So, I mean, I don't.
You ain't whipping nobody that got two guns.
You put a lot into your child, and now they made it, and now you acting stupid. We about to be poor again.
I don't think they're going to be poor. I absolutely don't feel that. But let's kind of speak on Ja's behalf. Ja is a 23-year-old man. He did not come from a great neighborhood. I'm sure that his basketball abilities is what got him into college in the first place. And if any one of us who have had friends that were notable in their sports career, they were ushered through this college experience. They were given things so that they were able to focus on the sport, especially if you were like a D1 team. They didn't, I can't go to practice because I got to go to study. What? Listen, we'll get somebody to take the test for you. It's okay. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. So, I mean, we need to give Ja just a smidge of grace, because at the end of the day, he went from nothing to something.
Great point.
Relatively quickly.
I'm willing
relatively
to
quickly.
Credit, but I'm not going to put it all to him acting the way he's acting because of his age, 23. Because you can be mature at 23.
You can.
I was listening to him talking. And, he was talking about what had happened to him and everything. And then this was when the first time they suspended him for the same thing. With holding a gun up or whatever. And he said, well, I was going to counseling, trying to get myself together and everything, and I want to make things right to do what I have to do. Now that was the first time that he was talking,
right?
And now we right back here in the same situation again. So I'm saying, like, well, what kind of counseling were you paying attention when you was in the counseling, or are you asking questions about how do I help myself? I don't understand how you were going through counseling, but now you're right back where you started with that, because this is not the first thing. Things have been going on and happening, and they still, this is two major things with the gun, but the other stuff that he did before, they give him a little suspension here and there and all like that. But what's happening when things start happening like this, it always leads to something really bad.
Which we got to stop. we have to nip that in the bud, or they have to, the people in his family, along with him personally, because he's responsible for himself. And he's responsible for a whole family that he's changed their life.
Absolutely.
I'll say this, Allison, Lottie, I'm willing to give him I'm willing to give him a bucket, a gallon of grace a day.
Right.
And with that, I would ask in exchange for an understanding, not that I deserve it, but since we're the viewing public and he provides a service to us as fans, if we're fans, I would at least like to say, in exchange for my grace, give me a real understanding as to what's going on. Absolutely. Because a lot of times when people do things like, God bless, we could all shout out to Jamie Foxx, praise for Jamie Foxx, when no one knew what was going on. So it's easy to play around with, he's on his deathbed. Maybe he's not. But when you discover, according to TMZ, he probably had a stroke, you can lend more empathy and say, you know what, I don't need to hear too much about what's going on. Because when you hear it, you get the empathy. So if John Moran, let me be funny, was going through a divorce, not to say being an unlicensed gun carrier, waving it around is permissible, but you'll be able to say, people do lose their mind when
he
they
was
get
going
divorced,
through something.
Certainly. I guess for what it's worth, maybe it would help his bottom line if he exposed what he's going through.
Right. But I also feel too, you know, when you make transitions within your life, you can't necessarily take everybody with you.
Good point.
You know what I mean? So if you are accustomed to this circle of friends who don't have anything to lose, they're like, yeah, son, bring out your gun. No, sir, you are carrying a family on your back.
Right.
He doesn't have any sensible people in his corner to say, stop that. You have a career and $175 million. Nobody here who's in this video is doing it that way. You shouldn't even be here,
and see, the thing about it is, I also think too is that he has to get it together and stop with this gun stuff, because then after a while, the people gonna think he's some gangster, and then you know how the police are that likes to follow you around because you drive big, nice cars and all that kind of stuff. So if you get the reputation that he's carrying a gun, even he might not even have the gun in the car, but then you know what I'm saying, and it end up getting hurt over something that might not even be in the car, because in their mind now they think you walking around with a gun all the time.
I mean, sidebar, somebody got killed over a bag of Skittles. So
you want to get the reputation that you're a gangster. That's what I'm saying.
Not just the police, but the ops. You know what they call the ops. You know, they could be looking at this. And there he is, right there.
There he is, right there.
That's what I'm saying. You know, that's what I'm saying. He don't want to get
God
that
forbid,
reputation.
of course.
You know,
right?
But he needs to get his group, his thing together, like Jalen Hurst, the other young player. Where I tell you that there's some young people that got it together. The football. Jalen Hurst. He has a whole team of 6 women that take care of everything, publicity, everything for him. That's what he needs to get. So they keep
John needs that
order.
Yeah,
and in control and knows
John
what he's supposed to be doing. That's what he needs to put in place. And if he can't put it in, his parents need to put it in place for him so he can continue to grow into the athlete that we know he can be. And I don't like for them to be role models for children, because I think your parents should be role models.
Of course. And speaking of
that's how I look at role models, you know, but you know, we wish him the best, and really I hope he'll get it together or whatever. But our next topic was, you know, we was talking about getting divorced before, but we never got a chance to finish everything. So tonight I also wanted to touch back on getting a divorce. Sandler, because you talks about divorce, because that's what you do. You handle divorces and stuff like that. So what is some of the specific things that you would say that we need to consider if we're thinking about getting a divorce?
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I got to say, I can give you a ton of reasons, a list of things that you should consider before you decide to walk down the gloomy road of divorce. Do you know, I think it's in Latin or the Greek, a divorce means violent tearing apart, apart. And that's exactly what it is. If you've ever been through it, I personally went through it after being married for over 24 years. I went through a very, very difficult divorce, you know, and it was not easy to navigate through, going into it, being in it, and coming out of it. And thank God things are a lot brighter now, right? But one of the things that I think is important that people want to consider, and they may think this is just too simple, but it's not. And that question would be, why? Why? What about your vows don't feel worth keeping so close to the chest that you're going to use that as a shield to keep you from being callous in heart. And I say this to the husband or the wife. What really took place? What is so unforgivable? What is the huge mountain that's blocking both of you? Because some people, and this may be controversial for me to say, some people say, I'm just not happy anymore. And you know what I say in response to that? Because I get at least 20 calls a day to my office, and that is at least 10 of them. The reason when people express. And I say, why? And you know what I follow up with when they answer that? Why? And when you narrow down to it, many times it's something that I think, as being a person that helps people with divorce, but I'm not a licensed psychologist, counselor, or therapist, I would tend to see people more unhappy with themselves and not really the person that they chose to supposedly live the rest of their life with.
So in other words, you think before they even got married that they weren't ready for marriage?
I absolutely believe that
Not
most of the
ready for
time.
marriage.
And you can build it while you fly. Yeah, some people aren't ready in the beginning. But you know what? You got to look at each other and say, you know, we did a whole lot of stuff to get to this point. We're not going to bust this up. And I think we live in an age where people are really, really willing to push the detonator and just blow everything up because they think when the coast is clear, it's going to be heaven. 9 times out of 10, it's not.
It's not. The dating pool has pee in it.
I don't feel the
Oh, that's good.
Pee in it.
The dating pool has pee in it.
The dating pool has pee in it.
I never heard that one.
Okay.
What is the pee?
Listen, it's saying that it's pissy in there.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's pissy in there.
Right. It smells.
Not as blue as you think.
Exactly. It may look blue, but
it may look blue.
You don't want to get that stuff in your mouth.
You don't. I don't want it in my hair either.
So Allison, are you saying because now they got all this dating apps and foods and so where you can meet a lot of people? But why would that be any reason? Because even when you meet the person and y'all get together, everything, I thought, well, not I thought, but I do say I thought, because I thought like even when you get together with the people, whether they on the app or off the app or you meet them on the street, is you getting married and stuff because you you know you love that person.
That's not necessarily the case.
No, Allison, can I want to jump on
okay, then before you answer, Sally, we got to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
But I passed it to you. There you go.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Hi, we're back. And we're doing our hot topics today. We were talking about divorce before we went to break. What were you saying, Sally, before we went to break?
I got to say this. Most people that I've encountered that are getting married and marriages are still at about 50%, but they end up getting divorced within the first 5 years. 80% and get divorced in the first 5 years. I'm strongly of the belief that people like the idea of being married, the idea of a wedding, the idea of the gifts, the idea of being the center of attention. I'm not just putting this on the woman. I'm putting it on the man too.
Absolutely.
Because when the idea or the dream starts to dissolve, it was nice. The wedding was nice.
Right.
But when you wake up, you get home from the honeymoon and you look at each other, it still may feel a little nice. But after about a year, that's when you say, I'm really married. And that's when the work comes in. That's when the real hard work. And I think some people haven't been trained. If you're going to do a job well, you got to be trained. And, and that touches back to John Morant too, right? You have to be trained for the position that you're being given. And a lot of people simply aren't trained. And so the idea still gets people married, but the lack of training doesn't keep them married. And thus divorces are rampant.
But wait a minute. So wait a minute. Now, when you saying that lack of training, like we got to get training before we get married?
Absolutely.
You just counseling or something.
Because I'm thinking that if you really love that person, I thought that's why you was getting married, because this is someone that makes your heart beat and thump, and you just want to be with them every day. And so
Puppies
even when
make
you
you
have
feel the same
arguments at
way.
home and
Thank
fight,
you.
you're willing
Got
to
one.
make it up.
You're right. Puppies
Got
make you
one.
feel the same way.
Love
And
you,
and
Aladdin.
right, you know, and you know what? And we'll put more work and forgiveness into a puppy than we will into the person
Another
that,
human being.
yeah, you know, but we expect the same grace and the same forgiveness to come back to us, because the
Right.
one thing that I would love it if divorces went down and I had to figure out something else to do, and I really mean that, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I think what we do is we refuse to outserve each other. That should be the only competition. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna outserve you, you're gonna outserve me. On the way home from work, the real work starts. What does she need? What was her day like? What did I think she
Right.
was gonna be doing today? Let me
How can I
address
help her
that
at
right away.
home?
Right. How can I help her at home? And same
Right.
thing for her. I know he's coming home. You know what? He said he's gonna be late. I don't feel like cooking. I'm gonna get something. You know,
Right.
or you know what? He's supposed to cook. I'm gonna cook. And I'm not even gonna tell him and make a big deal. When he walks
Right.
in the door, he's gonna see us there. You know, those
Little
important.
nuances.
Thank you. Make a
Those
big difference.
little things make a
But
big
when you find,
thing.
well, wouldn't you find some of that out while you dating?
That
Don't some of those things happen while you dating, so it gives you a sense of what kind of person this is? You know, would they go out of their way to cook, and you got to tell them to do something, or they the type of person that just go ahead on and do it?
I mean, that honestly depends. I feel like, you don't really know someone till you live with them. Or you spend a significant amount of everyday time, and also in different situations also as well. You can have a perfect relationship and never have anything happen, and then something happens and that person's like, oh, I can't deal. I can't help you with this. I need to take myself out of this situation. You know what I mean? So you can't grow with anybody if you don't go through anything with anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? But go ahead.
Please. Well, the marriage has to be tested.
Right. It
And
definitely has to be tested.
I'm big on that. And I understand why there's so many trust issues in the air these days. You know, because going back to the dating apps have put people in a position where it does tickle the fancy of someone. Listen, the worst thing, I'm sorry to even compare this to like a drug addict or a person with chemical issues, but the number one thing a person with chemical issues has to do is stay away from anything that reminds them of that. So in the case of you being in a committed relationship, stay away from anything that reminds you of what it was like to be single. You are in a new space, in a new place, in a new time, and you have to make it work, and you can't cross that line anymore.
Absolutely.
You have to really embrace what this new life is and construct it. Lead your life by going ahead and looking at your wife and saying, you know what? I don't care what marriage looks like to anybody else. What is it going to look like to us? Let's make this happen our way, our design. I think that's what it's time for.
And does that match? And does that match? But to say in response to what you said, Lottie, it also, when that love, if you don't feel that juicy honeymoon period love, do you guys have the same financial goals? Do you guys have the same dreams, the same aspirations? You guys have to be able to meet in the middle somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can say, "Ooh, I love him. I want to have kids."
Right. You are absolutely right. That's my point. But don't you try to discover these kind of things before you go down the aisle?
Not everybody.
They want to together. They want to build something. Do you want to build some empire, legacy, or something? I mean, I don't think it's great to start asking those questions after I got married. Do you want to have
what
premarital counseling
is for? You will uncover the majority of issues. The pastor. Oh, God bless Reverend Taylor.
Always
Church
digs
Open
the
Door.
juice.
Shout out to Church Open Door in Brooklyn, New York. He said to me, you know what your wife's going to be like in 20 years? I said, what? He sent her out the room. He said, do you know what your wife's going to be like in 20 years? I said, what? I thought he had some Holy Ghost secret, or he was going to pull out a scripture. I was going to reveal everything, all the secrets of the universe. And he looked at me close, just like this. Same way I'm getting close. He said, look at her mother. I'm not going to say on camera what I said to him. And shout out, everybody's a good person. And, I have 4 wonderful kids from my ex. And I also say he was right. And I think there are enough study materials out there for people to absorb, to get an understanding, not to run, but to say, this is what I'm going to be working with. And I think that's really what we should do. What am I going to be working with, instead of, am I sure I want to do this? Because those have 2 different mind states. Am I sure I'm going to do this? Makes you apprehensive from the jump. It's not worth even going through it. But it's like, what am I working with? It's like, I'm ready to pull up my sleeves. What we got here?
There you go.
You know, I know what was good, but let me see what needs a little, not tuning up. You can't change anybody.
Right.
But what adjustments do I need to make for this future to work? And that's not happening enough.
Well, you know what?
Absolutely.
Before we go to the next topic, what I'm just gonna leave with saying this on this is that I just don't feel that people are committed to each other like they used to be, because back in the day when people would get upset or something would happen, they would try to work it out. But I notice nowadays when something happened, they'd be like, I'm out of here. And they didn't got their little suitcase and packed it up and they out the door. They're not even trying to work out anything. So to me, that means you really didn't care for that person to start with, and you really didn't love them that deep, because when you love someone deeply, you will try to do what you have to do to even stay with them, knowing that you probably shouldn't stay with them, but to stay with them because you really love them that much. Because I guess I look at love in a different way, because when I really love somebody, I'm going to do what I have to do to make that person happy, to make sure that we can stay together. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think we have lost and that we're not working on. So I say, before you get married, make sure that there's some love there, and it's not just about convenience and a paycheck. Anyway, the next hot topic I want to talk about, but you know, we got the parents and the students now upset because the mayor is putting the asylum seekers in our schools now, taking the gyms and setting them up as places for the asylum seekers to come. And the parents and students are all upset because they use the gym for their graduations and their proms. So now they got to scramble to find places now to have their graduations and their proms. Now, do you think that's right?
I don't. But I also think it should be on the mayor and his staff to use the surplus that the city budget has to help these schools that they have taken away this venue that they have and put them somewhere else, equal or better. I would say better. But so if they're not willing to do that, I don't think they should be taking it away from these students.
I would tend to lean on Allison's great point in the same way. And I'll add to that. It's hard for me to believe that aside from the surplus, there are no federal funds. I know the mayor has been requesting, and from upstate in Albany, as well as from the federal government, for assistance, because you know how a lot of this started. The mayor did say something, from what I understand, and Governor Abbott, all of a sudden, 34th Street got a whole bunch of buses coming in, with brothers and sisters from somewhere else.
New York.
And you know what? If you've been not Port Authority, that's what I was walking through Port Authority, which is already kind of shady already, you know, and congested. I couldn't help but feel sad, but also be amazed. And I said, look at all these people, they're literally just sitting on the ground in a row with nowhere to go.
Right.
So, and I live not too far. I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Well, actually, I live in Crown Heights, near the Bedford shelter, which is on Bedford Avenue. And I have to say, it went from being a large population, it's a men's shelter, men with super dark melanin, like my beautiful complexion, my wonderful complexion, to brothers and sisters from the Latin American countries. I'm not sure, Venezuela, wherever. Yeah. And it's amazing. It's like, and they're everywhere. And I'm not going to speak about them as if they're like roaches or anything like, but I will say it is distracting. But to your point, where's the money?
Where's the money?
Is being taken away from? Who's losing out on this money being put in, aside from the kids? I'm sorry for the kids not having a graduation space. And where's this money coming from?
Right. Because how are we taking care of these people that we said we would open doors to?
Yeah, because something has to be done, and it has to be put a stop, and he needs to put his foot down and put a stop to this, because the simple reason is how many people can you take? You can't take but so many people, and we're past what we can take, because now when it's affecting the schools, if they start putting it in, they already didn't put it in 2 schools already, 188 and 172. So that means it's going to be in other schools. So when the parents was complaining, and he said he's going to get on TV and talk about, well, you know, you have to deal with it. You deal with it like we dealing with everything else. To me, that's not the attitude, because now you're messing with the kids. First of all, the
Right.
schools are already overcrowded. Now they're
Right.
going to really be overcrowded because you're only supposed to have 28 kids to a class. So now it's going to be way past the 28. Then it's going to start more problems with the teachers union and all that kind of stuff. So now you take it away the gym space where now they can't have gym. Where are they going to have gym at? They have to have some kind of outlet during the day to get some of that sugar out of them after lunch and stuff like that. So what I'm saying now, it's going to start affecting the kids in the schools now. And something has to be done. I don't think you should be touching our schools. I'm sorry. You need to find another building and another space, and you go to these landlords that have empty buildings and stuff like that they have not fully rented or whatever, and pay them to put people in there. I do not think you should be touching the schools where our kids now are trying to get an education, which is going to be affected because now their kids have to be put in the schools because you can't turn kids away from a school. They
Lottie,
have to take the kids in there.
Let me tap you on the shoulder and say something to you. So let's say, suppose you have a beautiful home next door to you, and it was empty, and the landlord is not present. And here you are, you're wonderful Lottie now. You love everybody, and everybody love you. One morning you wake up, and a house that probably could fit maybe 8 people might have 16. And guests, about an extra 10 guests sitting on the steps. They ain't bothering nobody. What about that?
No, they're not bothering nobody, but that happened. See, we have a block association. So this way you only can fit so many people in the house, and there won't be nobody that's going to be sitting outside on the step because our block association is not going to have that. So we already can deal with that house already.
Good answer. But that lends to my further point, which is, you see, what happens is people will do things to the people they think they can do it to. Absolutely. So the city's going to put people in areas where they know people may chirp and complain, but they won't do anything. You know, so what the concern is double-sided. We're concerned about people, right, being well taken care of. That may be in a very, because imagine being taken out or leaving your country for whatever reason. You know, you're not leaving your country for a reason. You're not leaving just because you want to leave. You're leaving because you think something's better out there. So you're lost. Right. You know, it's almost like you woke up in a weird world, and now people are looking at you like, "What you doing here?" You know, it's almost
okay. Well, yes. All right, we gotta wrap up. Our time is out. I'm just saying that the mayor is gonna have to put his foot down and say we just can't take any more people. I'm not saying that we shouldn't help people. I am not against that, but you can only do so much, and you only have so much space. New York might be a big city, a big place, but it's not big as you think it is. No.
And he has to admit that he said too much and offered too much.
Yes. So we want to thank you for coming on today and hosting, and we want to thank y'all for watching today. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and like our page, and watch us on Saturday also on Brooklyn Arts Media House at 5:30 and Manhattan Neighborhood Network at 2:30. So thank you for joining us, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
Do you like beautiful pictures for your home or your office? Then stop by Stage Box Gallery. They have a large selection of pictures from around the world.
It's Shanna.